My name is Robert Wahl. I'm an associate professor of computer science at Concordia University in Wisconsin in the US. And my paper is talking about computer animation and analysis on balancing artistic and technical skills. So computer science, one part of computer science is computer animation, and it's sometimes called computer generated imagery or CGI. It's used a lot in the movie industry. It's used to do animations for classes. And basically, it's a series of images that are used to give the appearance of motion. And one of the things that has been shown through studies is that somewhere more than 12 frames per second is good for showing motion. If you get less than that, if you get down to about 8 frames per second, it starts to become really a jittery, kind of shaky image. And 12 frames per or more are better. Some places, typically on television, it's shown at 24 frames per second. And movies are generally shown at 30 frames per second, although some movies have come out at 60 frames per second or more. It all depends on how smooth and how realistic you want the frames to be presented. Computer science is one of the departments where computer animation is commonly offered, but it can also be offered in the art department. And the university that I work for has both departments, and we're actually side by side in the university, and we work together fairly well. But one of the things that was discovered by an author, Cumbie Jones, way back in 2001, was that it was observed that students exhibit stronger skills either on the artistic side or stronger on the technical side. So students had a tendency to lean one direction or the other. They were more comfortable, they were more adept at doing things technically, or they were more comfortable with the artistic skills and less comfortable with the technical side. So it really kind of delineated that clearly between two different groups of people. Just to quote one of the things she said here, one of the major problems facing educators who teach computer animation is how to balance the technical and conceptual skills required to produce effective computer animation in a manner that's holistic. So that's the challenge: is do you present it from more of a technical side? Do you present it from more of an artistic side? Or you try to achieve a balance in between the two? Our university where I teach is a 4-year mid-sized private college located in Wisconsin. We've got about 8,000 students. We currently offer 3 animation classes, computer animation classes. At one time, we offered 5. We've scaled back a little bit since then, down to 3. We end up in the general range of about 20 students or so in the classes out of that 8,000 population. Our classes utilize 2 different pieces of computer software: Blender, which is an open source product, and Maya, which is a commercial product from Autodesk, which is quite expensive, but thankfully for educational purposes, it's allowed us to use it for free. One of the goals of all 3 of the classes is that they provide a semester-long individual project where they work as an individual and they try to come up with a computer animation movie somewhere in the 5 to 10 minute range to show off their skills and what they've learned over the course of the semester. Our Animation 1 class focuses more on the history of animation and introduces some basic concepts of animation, such as the 12 principles of animation. And our Animation 2 class goes into more depth, has the students create a more detailed background scenes and more advanced character designs. It's interesting, I've located this article from Bourdin from 2006, and he and his team mentioned that computer graphics, of which computer animation is a part, is considered an important enough area of study that recommendations have been made to include it in all undergraduate majors in computer science. So basically, he and his team felt that it was important enough that computer animation should be a core course in computer science discipline. Much of what we output from computer science today is graphical in nature, as we're opposed to 30 years ago, where things were much more data driven and it was pure data. Now we're doing things a lot more with different kinds of charting and web pages and graphical presentations of the data. So those skill sets are rather important. Another article I ran across in my research was from Silva in 2009. And he mentioned the need exists for formal training and independent learning. So one of the challenges with a course like this is that you cannot just cover everything during the semester. There is too many options to the software. The software is highly complex and it is used by major studios to do animated films such as we see in the theaters. So it's just way too complicated to get through in a 15-week semester. So independent study, learning from online sources, watching videos, learning from each other is necessary for a mastery of the computer programs. And even then, at the end of the semester, they've maybe used, for example, in Blender, there's, thousands of different features. They maybe used a couple hundred of those features. One of the things that I've been needed to do in my courses is to add intermediate checkpoint assignments, where somewhere at week 5 and week 10 during the semester, for example, I'll ask them to submit what they've got so far, and this helps to keep them on track. Otherwise, schedules slip, like on anything else. Projects will not be completed, or probably not completed as well as possible if they were to keep more current. Blacksman back in 2003 cited that achieving a correct balance between artistic and technical classes in such a program can be challenging. And here we are 20 years later, and we're basically looking at the same thing, trying to achieve a balance between artistic skills and technical skills. So it's not just among the students either. And I'll talk about that in a minute. All of our classes contain a mix of art majors and computer science majors. So it's not purely a computer science class or purely an art class. They're a mix of students, which I'll talk about in a few minutes is a real advantage to this. And it's one of the ways I'm going to change my design going forward. In recent observations, the tendency has been for a higher percentage of students to be from the computer side, rather than from the art department side, although that hopefully is changing as we're doing more recruiting in the other departments, trying to get people to come in to take this course just as a human interest course or as a part of one of their majors. The reason that we might skew a little bit more heavily into the computer science thing is that the course itself is actually offered out of the computer science class and not out of the art department. One of the challenges with teaching a course like this is that students tend to think of themselves as I'm a technical person, I'm not artistic, or they think of themselves as being a highly artistic person, but they get scared by computers. And so one of the challenges is trying to bring out the artistic skills in technically minded students and bring out the technical skills in artistically minded students. Way back in 1975, so a long time ago, Sperry was the man that came up with the concept of, it was a seminal research paper basically written on left brain and right brain. And so he was the one that proposed that we have these two different hemispheres of the brain, and that the left brain hemisphere was found to be more responsible for verbal skills and math skills. And the right brain hemisphere was found to be more involved with spatial and visual skills. So basically, was it the technical side of the brain or the artistic side of the brain? This was further enhanced by a book that came out by Edwards in 1997, where she wrote about a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And her research indicated that this was true, that the right side of the brain was used more for artistic skills. And one study was interesting, found that in general, US-based computer animation programs focus more on artistic skills, and European programs faced more on technical skills. And one of the challenges I have is that I come from more of a technical background than an artistic background. So my particular courses tend to focus more on the technical side, but I try to achieve that balance throughout the class. So students tend to have a stronger leaning towards either the artistic side or towards the technical side. But one of the things that can happen is studies have shown that people can enhance the weaker side of the brain, the weaker hemisphere, and they can learn these skills. So artistic minded people can become technically strong, and technically minded students can become artistically strong. That was first examined by Singh back in 2012. One of the challenges in developing a course of study for computer animation is that it leans in the direction of being either artistic based or technically based. And I mentioned how my class leans more towards a technical base. This was found by Randy Pausch back in 2013. He's actually famous. You may have seen the thing where he did the last lecture before he died of cancer. It was rather a famous thing about 5 years ago. And another study by Cumbie Jones found that including hand-drawn animation classes would be really beneficial for people without an apparent skill set in artistic skills, and that they could learn that they really do have some pretty good skill sets. Unfortunately, the university where I'm at right now does not currently offer that type of course. So it's something we could consider adding to our syllabus, to our course offerings. One of the things that I've done as a result of this study is to look at forming two-person teams. And these two-person teams are going to be most effective. Research has shown that if you combine an artistic-minded person with a technically-minded person, that between the two, they can balance each other out and they can help each other out in different areas. So the study by Wolf back in 2000 looked at combining different teams. And I think this is the approach that I'm going to take going forward. One of the reasons I want to do this is because of this next slide, which mentions here employers, when questioned whether they might not hire a person directly after graduation, indicates the ability is not there to work on interdisciplinary teams. And so actually by doing this in my classroom, I'll be creating a microcosm of artistic people and technical people. And that's very much similar to the way it would actually be out in the real world when they get out to a professional job. So forcing the two to work together within the classroom may be highly beneficial, even for their own careers. As I mentioned previously, in my particular classes, we tend to have a higher percentage of students coming from a technical background. So balancing this out may be a bit of a challenge. Research and classroom observation has shown that by combining students with artistic and technical backgrounds may be the best environment. And this provides the best, highest quality final animation projects. And I have actually observed this in a few cases where I have had the opportunity to combine artistic students and technically minded students. I have seen the best projects have come out of those particular groups of students rather than somebody that is a combined two people that are technically skilled or two people that are artistically skilled. And there has been some research as well that has shown that this left brain, right brain hemisphere research may not be as strong of a factor as people think it is, that in some cases this is starting to change a little bit, and that the software itself has become better so people that have artistic skills can do things that are quite technical. And it's also doing better a job at doing the artistic skills so that the technically minded students can do things that are artistically pleasing that they didn't expect that they had those abilities to do. This is a list of my references, and that's what I had for today. So I'm at 15 minutes and 43 seconds, so I made it. I will stop here. If there's any questions, otherwise we'll go on to the next talk. Let me stop my share here.